Good evening once again. My name is Elijah Cameron. I am Director of the Community Relations for the Bessie Smith Culture Center. We are welcoming today the Tennessee Black Caucus Tennessee State Tour Town Hall meetings. And we certainly thank you all for being here. Want you to ask a lot of questions once we get started. But before we get started, and before I introduce the legislators, we have a special presentation that's going to take place. Back in '94, we had a gentleman by the name of Mike Stewart that did something fantastic that's still revolutionized today. Mike created the wheelchair lift for Carter Bus. He did that back in 1994, and in doing that, he helped a lot of people be able to go on the bus in front rather than going to the back. We had a lift going in the back, but we didn't want to go to the back and get on the bus. You know, those days were gone. Whether we were handicapped or not, we just didn't want to go to the back and get on the bus. So Mike fixed it where we could go to the front and get on the bus, and we're appreciative to Mike for that. Today we're going to have a special presentation to Mike. Brother Harvey is coming, Brother Ed Harvey is coming. He's going to give us a little history, and then he's going to do that special presentation. Brother Harvey.
Now, this is totally unrehearsed. Can you hear me? Okay. This is totally unrehearsed. Mike and I have not gone through this at all. He doesn't know anything that I'm going to say, so we'll see how all this comes out at the end. We're going to talk about two things, a plant and a man. So the first thing will be the plant. This is a special plant. It comes from a cutting from the White House. Sits on the mantle in the Oval Office, and I think Mike has a picture of President Obama standing in front of the mantle, and he'll show it to you later on. This plant has been there since 1961. It was presented to John F. Kennedy by the Swedish ambassador. I won't try to pronounce his name because I don't speak Swedish, and it's almost an impossible language. Candidate's been in the Oval Office since 1961. Now imagine what this plant has heard and the people it has seen. For example, Martin Luther King, President Nelson Mandela of South Africa, and of course, Barack Obama. You know, it's all been through all their administrations, all through the other administrations, all the dignitaries that have gone through, even the people, the stewards, the maids, everybody who polished the floor. This plant has heard so many stories, it's unbelievable. Well, my wife and I, this is Sylvia, stand up. We owned a coffee business for 25 years. We were in top secret military facilities. We had to have top secret clearance to sell a cup of coffee. And in that process, we met many friends, and one of them was Lieutenant General Gainey. She was the highest ranking woman general in the U.S. Army at that time. And she had a cutting or a plant that came from a cutting from the Oval Office. And when she retired, she came down to our coffee shop and she said, "Ed, you took care of my people, I'm going to take care of you." So she gave us cuttings, and ever since then, we've had cuttings. And I put them into pots, and we grow them, and we give them away to special people. That was one stipulation. It can only go to a special person. You cannot sell it. So we always look for special people. Well, we ran into a special person not too long ago. We were rehabbing a house down in Georgia, and through that process, we needed windows. And a man by the name of Mike Stewart, right when we're all going through COVID, has a company here in Chattanooga that does windows. He shows up because we asked him to come, and we sat down and talked, and he just had bypass surgery and all this other stuff. I had to help get windows out of his car, and we really had a bonding there. And we talked about growing up in racial America, because I go all the way back to the 50s, and military family, and I've seen things all over the world, and then Mike told me stories about Georgia and Tennessee and everything else. And in that process, he told me about him developing, we talked about Washington, D.C., and he talked about developing the wheelchair lift that was on the buses in Washington, D.C. So the politicians, in their good gracious idea, they invited him to D.C. because they were going to put a plaque on the wall, and Mike has a picture of that plaque with his name on it, and he'll point to it for you. But he was going to go to a ceremony where they were going to talk about him helping develop this wheelchair lift, and then they were going to mount it on the wall in the Capitol. It's still there to this day. So if you ever go to the Capitol, make sure you ask about that plaque and look for his name. When he went to D.C. to do this, it was Mike, come on up here. I'm gonna blow your story here.
And you guys got a few more minutes, 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Mike, you were on a tour, the bus tour?
Yeah, we were having dinner and getting ready to go back to the White House. They sent 4 buses out to pick one of the congressmen up who was in a wheelchair lift. And none of the lifts worked. So, of course, after the fourth one,
Go figure.
I told them, bring me, go to the garage and get me a standard kit, mechanic's tool kit. I took off my coat, I climbed under the bus, and 30 minutes, 45 minutes later, I repaired the lift, and the congressman was able to get on. We went back to the White House. Needless to say, when I got back, they said, "You missed your presentation." And they were like, "Where have you been?" And I said, "Well, of course, I was helping the congressman." And so that's how all that came about. Real quick, this is a copy of the plaque. This is a copy of the plaque that is in the Hall of Congress, and it has a lot of great African Americans named, like the man that invented the traffic light, the man that invented the real McCoy is a train coupling. That's why they call it, is that the real McCoy? He was an African American, Elijah McCoy. And so my name is at the bottom, well, 5th from the bottom, but it's on there, and I was honored to be a part of that group. And so with that, we talked about it. I never was able to be at the ceremony where they did it, but Ed was talking about, Mike, we want to present you with something.
So we brought part of the White House to him.
Which is this right here. there's a picture of it with President Obama.
So special people are allowed to take cuttings from that plant. And Lieutenant General Gainey obtained a cutting, and then when she retired, she gave us all her cuttings, and so we've been passing them out slowly across the country. I've lived 37 different places, so as we go, we find special people. So Mike is a special person. And Akeem, since you helped put this together, I have one for you as well. Okay? So I'm sure Akeem is going to take cuttings, put them in other pots, and grow them. And when you visit his office, you can ask him for a cutting.
Thank you.
bet.
I'd just like to say in closing, Chattanooga awarded me a great opportunity. I was a young man, I was in my 30s, experimenting with different venues of trying to become a businessman. If it weren't for people like Mayor Ron Littlefield, a lot of the other mayors, Hakeem, I remember, I'm not gonna tell the story, but he helped me when I first started. He was a councilman. That's what we have to do. We have to mentor and bring people up. I've been very quiet here lately. I stay to myself, but you know, Ed talked me into doing this, and I just want to say I wanted my family to know that I did. You know, my kids were little when that happened. They had no idea what Daddy did. They just knew Daddy traveled all the time, and so you know, this was an honor for me because I did a lot of work in the Clinton administration. I learned a lot, and I've truly been blessed. And I want to thank my beautiful wife, Sarah. Stand up, sweetheart. My rock. For putting up with me and all my crazy ideas. But thank you, Councilman. Thank you. State representatives. Thank you for offering us this time.
Thank you so much, Ed, for that, and thank you, Mike. Congratulations. Now, the business at hand. Tennessee Black Caucus has been touring the state to have town hall meetings, giving the constituents an opportunity to talk to them and ask questions about some of the things that are going on with our state legislators. Today we have with us Antonia Parkinson, who is the chair of the Tennessee State Black Caucus. I was waiting on that hand. Okay, and then we have with us Vincent Dixie, who is vice chair of the chair of the Democratic Legislative Caucus. Then we have with us Sam McKenzie, vice chair of the Tennessee State Black Caucus. Then we have with us Jesse Chisholm. He's the treasurer of the Tennessee State Black Caucus. Last but not least, we have with us, Yusef Hakeem. Yusef is the state representative of District 28 here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and does a great job, and we thank him for all that he does for this city and the state of Tennessee. Today we're going to be able to ask questions of these people, and when I say ask questions, we're going to limit your time to about 2 minutes. We're supposed to be out here about 7:30. They asked me to moderate because they say I'm a stickler for business and keeping people in line. Well, we got the total road. Now I know we spent about 15 minutes right there, but that's all right. And that was good, right? That was all right. That was wonderful. Give me a big hand on that. So don't hold me to that 7:30 right now. Let's just see where we go, okay? There have been some issues that we've noticed in our paper and on the radio and television, things of that nature. One of them being gun issues. Then the other one, of course, you know, we had this shooting last week here in Chattanooga, these teenagers. And then we had the shooting in Buffalo. We had the shooting in Texas. And gun issues is a big thing, and gun issues on all our minds. I got grandchildren, so it's heavy on my mind. Another thing that that's heavy on my mind is the homeless people. We got a new law coming out July 1st that'll make it a felony for our homeless people to sleep or camp or set up in our on our public parks and public fairways and things of that nature. So those are the kind of things that we need to address with these legislators. Of course, now, some of these bills already been passed, so we're gonna have to deal with those. But we need to know where they stand on these issues. So as we get into this process of asking questions, I ask that you be very respectful to our legislators. Ask the questions, ask the hard questions, but ask in a decent way. So, as we get started, I guess I can ask the first question, and any one of you all can answer this question. Why is it that at 18 years of age, I can go out or you can go out and purchase a gun, but you can't buy a cigarette or alcohol? Why would we allow kids to go purchase a gun and then we wouldn't allow them to go purchase alcohol or cigarettes at 18? So we can get started, and anybody out here want to get started with that question, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, State Representative Antonio Parkinson. And before I answer that question, if you don't mind, take a moment of personal privilege to thank my colleague, State Rep. Yusuf Hakeem, who's doing an amazing job for y'all. I promise you he is. I'm not just saying it. And also want to thank our moderator, and I want to thank the staff of the Bessie Smith. This is a beautiful, beautiful venue. I had never been here, and I was just totally surprised at how amazing this venue is. Got to send a shout out to my guy Joe Hunter. You know you wasn't going to escape this, right? I've been knowing him before I was elected. We plowed the ground in Memphis. With the youth in Memphis, troubled youth, way before I was elected. He did not want me to come out of retirement as a firefighter and do the Heimlich maneuver on him, and y'all catch pictures of it. That was the last thing he wanted to happen. So he hurried up and spit whatever it was he had out, so I wouldn't be behind him and y'all catch it on camera. So thank you for that. But in all seriousness, let me say this. That debate, I was in that debate, and I sat on that committee when that debate was being had about 18-year-olds being able to carry weapons and permitless carry. And one of the arguments, of course, the argument that was being made was about the Second Amendment, right? But what happens is when the Second Amendment argument is used, they only read part of the Second Amendment, that says you had a right to bear arms. But that right was given so that, you could keep the government at bay, and it was for a well-trained militia. And, so every single citizen, excuse me, does not meet the definition of a well-trained militia. And also there was an age limit. And also in the Constitution, they precluded women from being able to bear arms. And they don't talk about that part either. Right, but the other thing is they use the argument, well, you're 18 years old, you can go to the military. Well, I'm a military, I'm a Marine. I went to the Marine Corps at the age of 17, and they did not put a weapon in my hand until I was well trained. And that was the argument I made. I said, at a minimum, these individuals need to go through a permitting process where they have to go through gun safety training at a minimum, and background checks at a minimum. And part of the reason why we're seeing what we're seeing, and we're going to see more. What we're seeing is almost now at this point a weekly mass shooting in our country. And that's unacceptable. And the worst thing that can happen is we become desensitized when we hear this in the news and we say, oh, okay, it's been another mass shooting, and we're going about business as usual. That's the worst thing that can happen. And then when you hear individuals saying, instead of really fixing the issue with common sense gun legislation, I'm pro-Second Amendment, I'm a Marine, I'm pro-Second Amendment, but I'm pro-Second Amendment with common sense, and when you hear individuals saying that kids need to wear bulletproof backpacks as a solution, to me that's not only immoral and diabolical, but it's sick. And you look at the length that some individuals would go to maintain a seat in these positions. As slaves to literal slaves to some of these special interests at the behest or at the stake of your child's life or your life. And then they offer thoughts and prayers. And I tell you, y'all, so let me get a disclaimer, I forgot to get that. I'm the uncut person up here. So you may get it really, really raw, and for all the pastors that are in here, lad, You know, I might drop one. And so if I, say something, drop an expletive by accident, pray for me. There you go, pray for me. But I'm sick of thoughts and prayers. I am sick of thoughts and prayers because these thoughts and prayers are not going to bring these babies back. They're not going to heal these grieving mothers, these grieving fathers. They're not going to repair that community. They will no longer get businesses brought to that community. They will not repair the lives and the mental health issues that will last for the rest of the lives of these teachers, these parents, these other individuals that were part of this and these other family members. So I'm sick of the thoughts and prayers. And I could care less, about your thoughts and prayers at this point. Because it's the same individuals that's offering thoughts and prayers that could change the policies, that won't change the policies, that could have stopped all of this madness. I hope I answered your question. Oh, thank you.
Anybody else?
All right, thank you. My name is Representative Vincent Dixie, and I represent parts of Davidson County in Nashville. Again, I'd like to take just a point of personal privilege. I'd like to wish John Allen a happy birthday. Today is his birthday, so thank you for coming. He's also a candidate for judge here in Hamilton County. District Attorney, sorry. Thank you, sir. I'm all over Tennessee, so thank you for helping me out. But happy birthday, John. I won't embarrass you by having us sing it, or embarrass ourselves by singing it, but happy birthday to you. And we will talk more about Hakeem as well as to some of the things that he's done as we go forward, but he's been an asset to our caucus and to the General Assembly. The one thing that I wanted to do was, especially in the black community, is handguns is an issue for us, like illegal handguns. That's an issue. And it's the AR-15s, yes, they have those guns. Those things should be banned as well. But one of the pieces of legislation that I wanted to introduce as we go into the next legislative session is I wanted to have let me make sure I want to say it correctly. It's based on a rule that we have in North Carolina, the law to have in North Carolina. So what it does is it mandates that handgun purchasers go to the sheriff's office and get a pistol permit. And they would have to go through this step if they don't have a concealed handgun permit. But I want to take it a step further, and is that if you have a handgun and you go to get bullets, you have to show your registration for that particular gun. What that does is you would have to actually be able to only buy bullets for the gun that you have registered for. So if you have a stolen gun, you're only going to be able to use the bullets that's in that particular gun. So that's going to make one, either they're going to have to learn how to shoot better, they're not going to be running around shooting everybody, or it just becomes a paperweight because it'll be useless because they won't be able to buy bullets for the gun. But we have to do something. And I don't know, I've just done research and I'm just trying to figure out some solution. But this is why we're here, because we don't know everything. We want to hear from the community. We want you to tell us some of your ideas, because that's where the best legislation comes from, the interaction with the community and talking with you to figure out what is a solution that you want to see, and let's figure out how we can put it into action and put it into legislation. So as we move through this evening and you ask your questions, also present us with an idea. That's something that maybe we could do to help make this situation better, because it's not getting better. And Representative Parkinson says this a lot: when the white community gets a cold, the black community gets the flu. And we have to make sure that it doesn't become well, it's already a pandemic in our particular community, but we need to do something to stop it. It's just gone too far at this point. But I'll stop there and we can move on. But thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Sam, you got something?
I do. Again, Sam McKenzie. I represent part of Knox County, but I was born and reared in Knoxville, but my family is from Chattanooga. My mom and dad moved to Knoxville. But in the audience, I'll take a point of personal privilege to acknowledge my older brother, a two-time Super Bowl champ, a Washington Redskin, Raleigh McKenzie, and his beautiful bride, Martha. And my cousin Cynthia's sister Neville and her husband Ulysses Terry Neville, who's Representative Hakeem's cousin. So there's a close connection there. You know, as we talk about how we are effective in Nashville, it takes multiple prongs, multiple attacks, and that's what we try to do. So what I introduced this past year, and it was actually brought to me by the African American Clergy Collective, a statewide collective of African American pastors. Pastor Ladd is a strong member of that organization. They brought myself and Representative Hakeem bills, but mine dealt with, okay, let's put the Second Amendment thing, the gun ownership thing to the side, because that's kind of a dog whistle, right? And that brings out a lot of hate, really. And so, but let's look at gun violence and what gun violence does, how that cancer continues to spread after the death. So what my bill was to do is look at gun violence as a pandemic, as an epidemiological problem. What happens to those kids after that father's killed 5 years later? Are they striving, or were they A students and now they're D+ students? What happens to that family unit? So it was going to go through the Department of Health just to look at what that violent event happened. I'm from Knoxville, graduated from Austin East High School. We had 6 of our students get killed from January through June of last year. 3 of them were supposed to graduate this past Tuesday. And so what's going to happen to those families as a result of that? And I was actually successful in getting out of subcommittee, which is kind of the first pretty big hurdle. But then what happens and what's going to happen after the Buffalo and the Texas shooting? After it dies down, we get a little quieter. The gun lobbyists are going to start in on our colleagues, and you better not vote. Just like I said, it's a sickness, and they are slaves to that lobby, and they're going to start to say, do away with. So in between going from subcommittee with a lot of momentum to committee, they spread the word. This is anti-gun legislation. This is that, and of course it died. So what we need, and it's us. It's us taking this multi-pronged attack. But we need to show up. We need to show up in Nashville. We need to show up downtown Chattanooga and say, we're demanding change and we're not going anywhere. This isn't a fly-by-night. When the emotions die down, you can go back to business as usual. We need to get behind these type pieces of legislation. So thank you.
Website. Oh, I'm sorry.
Am I on? Hey, everybody. I'm State Representative Jesse Chisholm out of Memphis, and I'll also take a point of personal privilege to thank you all for being here today. Thank you all for spending your Friday afternoon with us. It means the world to us, and we just want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to touch on the mirage of gun bills that have flew through committees this past year, that have flew through our chamber. I got a chance to see how sometimes bills, they don't even break down to black and white. Sometimes they break down rural versus urban. I noticed with our gun bills, those that came from rural areas, so I have a different relationship with firearms than most. I grew up as a hunter. And with me being a hunter, my father, he made sure that we knew gun safety, and we knew that this thing wasn't a toy, and what you see on TV is not what really happens. Well, many of us in our large cities, we can't do the same things that they do in those rural areas. Because in rural Tennessee, when you hear a gunshot in the morning time, you assume someone's hunting, right? In a large city, you assume that something bad happened because of proximity. And through this legislative session, you had people who were passing these bills for their district, for their rural districts, to apply to the whole state. And the framework of the whole state is not uniformed. They passed bills for hunters, but did not pass bills that would ensure the safety of those of us that live in cities. And whenever we pass legislation with a blind eye to certain populations, we're making a huge mistake, especially when we're not even saying, hey, let's get some safety to go with your gun. Let's get you some training. They did away with the permitting process, and that is so dangerous. It is so dangerous, especially to our large communities, black or white. When you have people who live next to each other to the close proximity that we have people who live in apartments, it's not good to have firearms, especially with high capacities there. Because if you shoot your firearm, guess what? Someone's going to get hurt. And those bills was passed without the consideration of the people who do not have acres and acres of land that separates them from their next door neighbors. And again, when we pass legislation like that, it's dangerous to everybody. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you. Representative Hakeem?
Yes, I'll be brief. I too want to thank you for taking time out of your schedules to come and be with us. And hopefully we can have that exchange of concepts, ideas that will benefit our community as a whole. I guess I want to look at it from a little different perspective, briefly. Lobbyist and money. Lobbyist and money. I've seen some of my colleagues in Nashville, you know, they've gotten a brand new pistol from the lobbying firms and so forth. Of course, they get money for their campaigns. And when you are in a super majority, your power can be intoxicating, and you don't want to give it up. So what do? In addition to the concepts and ideas that have been expressed so far, we need to get back to basics. I mean, you, our families, everyone need to get out and vote. We need to have that message out there that if the change we want, we have to be that change. And that's going to take more than just, oh, I voted, I've done my part. No, it takes more than that, because it's impacting our communities in so many different ways. So I'm saying, let's think about, in addition to the concepts that have been brought forward, what you can do as an individual or your organization, NAACP, Urban League, whatever. There should be someone from your organization who views what we're doing in the legislature online, that can take this information back to you in your organization, so to keep you abreast of what's happening, what's going on. And as that awareness, a mushroom, so to speak, then you are more inclined to be more involved, more active. We've got to have you. It's not enough for it to be one way, you tell us something, and that's the end of it. It's a two-way street. We have to work together to make the change we want to see done. Thank you.
Thank you all. The floor is now open for questioning. We ask that you come to the mic to ask your question. Please come on up. It's on. It's on. Well.
Might need some help up here.
Yeah.
He's coming. He's coming. You stay with us, Doc.
I guess I'll go ahead and ask one question.
Can you ask me to state your name? Yeah, state your name, please.
Pastor Terry Ladd, Pastor First Baptist Church, East 8th Street here in Chattanooga, also representing the African American Clergy Collective of Tennessee. We want to thank you for accepting the bill that we brought to you. But my question is, will you be willing to continue to work over a summer session with African American leaders, African American Clergy Collective of Tennessee, the NAACP, Reverend Ann Pierce here, the Urban League, and the Equity Alliance? Will you be willing to work to develop a legislative agenda over the summer? And if so, who do we need to contact? Thank you.
Don't run away on us now. You might want to have something to say after this. But I think that you're right. What people don't understand about the legislative process, it starts July 1, not in January when we get there. So this is the time that we have the meetings and we try to develop our legislative package. Because once we get into session, it's almost too late. Most of the time we've already developed and it's moving at 100 miles an hour because we see 1,500 bills through January to April, maybe 1st of May. So that's a lot of bills to go through. So if we can get a head start and start to advocate for those bills in July, have the meetings that we need to have with the governor, start to round up the troops with even on the other side of the aisle, this is the time to start to present those ideas and bills. And that's one of the reasons why we're having the town halls in June, and because in July we need to be ready to move.
So do we need to contact you, Representative?
You can contact any of us
Okay.
at all times. But if you do want one singular point of contact, I would say the chairman of the Black Caucus, which is Antonio Parkinson.
Okay. Yeah, because, we have so many issues in our community. And I think coming together and galvanizing around these certain issues and presenting that legislative agenda will be beneficial for all of us.
I
Thanks.
agree. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and expound on that.
Thank you for that too, and Pastor, I appreciate you on that too. Let me give you some additional strategies also. One of the things that we do, so we can do that on a macro level, absolutely. With ACT across the state, right? But I would also implore you to get with Representative Hakeem also locally. Pull all of your clergy together. And it doesn't have to be just black clergy. It can be black clergy, white clergy, because I think that everybody needs to know the challenges so that we can attack it as a band. We're in a super minority up there in Tennessee at the Capitol. And so, we thank God for the Republicans that do sympathize with what we bring forth, because we can't pass gas without a Republican in there, honestly. We have to have their support. We got to get 50 votes. It's 26 of us. So politics is math. I tell people this every time. Politics is math. You got to get 50 votes. So that means we have to have 24 Republicans that vote with us on the bills that we pass. And let me tell you about this group up here. These some dynamic folks up here, man. We get bills passed. Yeah, this packet, I don't know if y'all seen this or not, but this packet, I think we passed over 45 pieces of legislation in this session. The black members. Yeah, and thank you for that. But let me qualify that just a little bit more. I always tell people, if you can pass one bill in a session, you're doing really, really good in a super minority. But these guys, we're passing bills up there, and so I'm proud of them and what they do. But back to the point, get together locally also, right? This is what I do, and use this as a model. And I think Representative Hakeem has already started pulling the black elected officials together, but pull your black clergy, your black business leaders, your black educators, very, very important, and all together, and have a monthly sit down. I have a monthly breakfast with I call them the stakeholders. I have a monthly breakfast with them, and we sit down, and it's very informal. So the pastors, they can take off the little neck thing, whatever you call it, right? Take it off, and they can be lad, right? Just lad, right? For once, right? And breathe and have conversations. But our planning starts there. And it's the best because we got a pipeline that goes all the way to the state level, all the way to the ground, to the community leader, right? And we had these conversations, so we all informed and all on the same page at every moment as we move forward throughout the year for our legislation. A lot of the legislation, I think one of my colleagues said, comes the best, I think it was Chairman Dixie, the best legislation comes from y'all. Give you just a quick example of that. One guy came to me at McDonald's. They were having breakfast. They had breakfast at McDonald's every morning. I walked in on their breakfast, and they were like, "Representative, shouldn't it be against, or shouldn't it be a conflict of interest for anybody that has anything to do with putting people in jail to own stock in private prisons?" I was like, "That's brilliant. That was brilliant to me, right?" I had never thought of it because we can't think of everything. But that's a great idea. Even though they killed it, the prison lobby killed it, but it's still, it makes sense, don't it? But the best legislation comes from y'all, so, you know, just a monthly setup here and in Davidson County and in Knox County and every other county would really, really help us to bring it all together statewide. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question.
Good evening. My name is Betty Maddox Battle. I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, born and raised in Pa's home, but Pa's home wasn't raised in us. That being said, I like to say publicly to Representative Hopkins, thank you. But I am a grieving mother. My oldest child was murdered in Atlanta in 1993. I'm also retired out of law enforcement, over 32 years. 5 of those years I taught fire safety. So I've experienced both aspects of gun violence. And I stand before you today on behalf of all the grieving mothers all over this country, primarily black women. I am sick of it. I concur with you, sir, in reference to the ministers, and no disrespect to any of them. They need to take off these ecclesiastical collars and get out there in the streets with us grieving mothers. You also have to hold the elected officials accountable. No disrespect to any of them that's here, but right about now, I don't care. You need to hold their feet to the fire. We're losing our children, and primarily black African-American young men and women. And forgive my passion. I don't only speak for myself. It could have been your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. There are solutions. I've been here often. I'm back up and down the road trying to get a support group here in the city of Chattanooga. And it's like me pulling teeth, and I'm not even a dentist. That being said again, we need a support group here, a homicide support group for grieving families. You all talk about the children, bring them to the table. They know the answer. Bring them to the table and let them, tell you what they want and what they need. We need conflict resolution, community haven. Nobody, all these religions and everybody, the Republicans against the Democrats and everybody is to blame. Every single one of us have to share in the blame. That being said again, we need one of the solutions. We need to develop, first of all, a national conversation about race in communities and facilitate activities where all stakeholders may interact. That's number one. Number two, we need to get legislation where you ban the AK-47s and the AR-15. You can go to the store and buy beer or whatever it is if you want, and don't have a background check, but you can go and buy a weapon and go in and kill some. So you're not safe anywhere. So just as sure as I'm standing here, it's going to be a long, hot summer, gentlemen. So we got to do something. We pay now or we pay later. Thank you so much for you all holding this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Was there a question, another question?
I wanted to tell you, I just wanted to give my contact information. You can go to my website, grievingrelatives.org, or you can email me at grieve_families@EPBFI, or you may call me at 470-885-9524. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
And thank you, ma'am. And before you go, I just want to tell you thank you for that. And this is exactly the feedback that we've been talking about, right? That we need to.
If you could just repeat your email again one more time for me.
My email address is grieve,
_,
@EPBFI.com.
And thank you again. Thank you for that. And listen, while we're there, I think it's important too. Y'all please make sure y'all follow us at TN Black Caucus on all social media too. And I want to link our social medias also. That's the reason why I said you jogged that in my memory. So thank you for that, and thank you for your comments. I really appreciate you.
Don't leave. The one thing I want to say is there's no need to apologize for your passion. No need ever to apologize. You standing in a place where none of us want to be or are right now. So I'm with you, and I understand. I hear the pain in your voice, even though it happened almost 30 years ago. It still feels like in your voice it happened yesterday, and I can hear that. The homicide support group, as we travel, this is one thing that I live in Nashville, so every day there's a shooting that happens, and it's getting younger and younger. It used to be the 20s, now it's the 18s, now it's not even 18-year-olds, it's the 15 and the 13s and the 14-year-olds, and so it has to stop. This homicide support group is great, and but I think that we have to go back to stop being reactive and be proactive. And that's the goal, that while we're here is what do we do? Because at this day, it's not a partisan issue, it's a life issue. And we have to make sure that people understand that it's not about politics. But the issue that we face is that our colleagues care more about politics and power over people. And the only way to change that is to change the butts that are in that seat. And we have to get out there and do this. Representative Barbara Cooper, she's our oldest serving member. Matter of fact, she's the oldest serving Democratic member in the nation. She had a bill about conflict resolution, and it passed, if I'm not mistaken, to put in every school, because that's what you need to do. Is you can't always get mad and want to hit somebody upside the head. It's how do you talk it out? Because when we were younger, our teachers made us hug. Even at the end of the day, you might get mad, but you had to hug, and then y'all went on and played, and y'all forgot about what was going on, and you came back. So there are some things that we're working on, so we can give us another year to see if it's being implemented, how it's being implemented, and let's get some outcomes. I sit on the Government Operations Committee, and I can implore the chairman of that committee to call the Education Committee to see what were the outcomes of these bills that was submitted a year ago, and see if there's been any movement in helping, and plus we can measure that against what's happening in society. So please continue to engage us. Your suggestions is what we need, and we'll continue to work on that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Let me don't go. I'm sorry. Myself and Representative Hakeem were just discussing legislation per your comments, and we're already working legislatively now at this table. But we're going to look at introducing legislation that would put funding in place for homicide victims support groups statewide based on the ratio of percentage of homicides to the population, across the state. So thank you for your suggestion. It's already at work now legislatively, so we're already working on it. It is. And here, let me tell you what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. Sometimes we have to embarrass them into doing the right thing, right? And so when this legislation is introduced, either they are going to be embarrassed and vote for it, or they are going to be embarrassed and defiant and try to hide it. And so, but we're going to work on this. This is already on our legislative list now. So thank you for that.
The late Bishop Desmond Tutu once said, "If you help me, we will remember. But if you don't help us, we will remember." Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you all for those comments. Ms. Martin.
Good evening, everyone. I don't need a mic, I promise. My name is Marie Mott, community activist, organizer, and District 8 City Council candidate. Often we hear a rallying cry around voting, but over 80% of our population does not vote. They're apathetic, and I don't necessarily blame them. When we lobby our local politicians for solutions, and even if we present them, we get tone deafness, if not utter objectiveness against any level of accountability. But further, the other thing is Does the average person understand the inner workings of what happens at the state level? We need education, and primarily, might I add, we have Montrell Besley, me, Leanne Jones. We ran for city council, running for county commission. How do we work interconnectedly to be able, because one of the things that I don't not take notes from anybody, even your worst enemy has something to teach you.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
would you get in front of the mic, please?
Okay. Even your worst enemy has something to teach you. And one thing that Republicans have learned is how to build power from the ground up. From the local level, they're sweeping local offices here in Hamilton County. And they're doing that because they're galvanizing their people, even if they don't understand the issues. How do we do that same thing? Because one of the things I learned as an organizer is you have to organize people and organize money. And that is how you impact, especially when we're talking about post-Citizens United, how money is all in politics, and that is really what's getting people into public office. Even for you at a local level, you're going to spend thousands of dollars to run a campaign. I spent $14,000 last year as a borderline broke black woman in the inner city, just trying to run to get on city council to bring about change. So how can we be educated here in the grassroots, some of the people who are out on the outskirts? Because I'm like you, I'm rough around the edges. But that's cool because I'm necessary too. How do some of the more polished people work with maybe some unpolished people like me and understand that you need both, it's both of those kind of black people that are needed, not one particular person? How can young people be educated about building power and building power with you and learning from you and being mentored by you? Because one day we're going to have to assume these roles and have little understanding about what is asked of us, what is required of us, and how do we do our best job when we get there? Can you teach us? Can you elevate us? Can you stretch us? I'm just asking, please, because I've asked a lot of people here locally, and sometimes I'm not getting what I'm asking for. Okay. So I'm going to ask at a higher level. Sometimes you got to go above folks. That's okay. So I am demanding that young people be pulled to the side and mentored to be able to assume these positions within our community, that we be fully supported to be able to rise, because one of the most impactful ways that we ever got legislation passed is movement. Black community has always had movement, and we're so fragmented right now by movement. So how can we take the church, and how can we take the grassroots, and how can we take the politicians, and how can we take LGBTQIA, how can we take every faction of our community and turn that into this mechanism of a machine that we can use to get every aspect of what we need? That's all I'm asking. You can reach out to me through votemont.com. info@votemont.com is my email address. You definitely want to know who I am and work with me, and I want to work with you because we are going to shake this state and turn it upside down because power belongs to the people both now and forever.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Yeah, what, no, she
Come on.
So, thank you for that. You said a lot, right? So I'm gonna try to hit a lot of what you and respond to a lot of what you said. So I am from Knoxville. I work at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So I'm a physicist by training. So I'm very linear. I'm structured. So a lot of times that young, let's go out and kill slay the world doesn't necessarily connect with me. Pastors are the same way. There's that connection. I have this passion. I wanted to do it this way. I want to go, but it's not, no, the pastor's going a different way. No one's wrong. But when you get those personality differences, that becomes a loggerhead and we don't move forward. So it's everybody, in my opinion, giving a little bit up to say, how do we move our collective community forward? So, there's a person, she was at our meeting on yesterday, Constance Every. She's in Knoxville. She's a candidate for governor. Extremely vocal, passionate, but a different approach. She and I butted heads at the beginning, but we get along beautifully now because she knows this is Sam. This is going to be Sam, and I said this is going to be Constance. What we're saying is 80% overlapping. Let's not let that 20% in approach or in timeline keep us from doing what we need to do to move our community forward. You know, it's amazing in Hamilton County, and I'm gonna throw a stone at you guys. So it's amazing, Knox County, we got about half the African-American population than Hamilton does. We have 2 elected Democrats in Knox County. Y'all know what Knox County looks like, right? It's red. It's the reddest part of a red state, you know, in terms of an urban area. So, but we were able to put aside, you know, differences. I may not agree with every last bit of the LGBTQ community. They may not agree with everything that Sam McKenzie puts forward. The pastors may not like my approach, but we understand. At the end of the day, what are we talking about? We're talking about crazy gun legislations that's moving forward. We're talking about not putting money in our education system in our urban areas. These are horrible things we can agree on. Let's focus on those. And this is my simple-minded opinion as to how we move this thing forward. When you find yourself getting angry at person A, person B, let's de-escalate the conversation and let's keep moving it forward. These events, town halls are great, and we'll come together, but then we'll start to fall off because somebody said something I didn't like. We got to get beyond that, so thank you.
I'd just like to add to that. You did say a lot, so I'm just going to attack another piece of it. Not attack, but just talk about it. The one thing you said is, and I'm going to say it in different terms, is building a bench. We do not have a bench. And so that is what happens with the Republicans. They play the long game. We play the immediate game, and we have to stop that. And we've been more strategic about what we're doing. So I work with my counterpart in the Senate, which is Senator Ramesh Akbari, and I work with Hendrell Remus, the county party chair, because in the past, all 3 have been doing their own things, right? Nobody's been coordinating. We haven't talked, we don't have a message. You can say, what do Democrats stand for? Nobody can tell you. But now, one of the things that we have been working on is just basic kitchen table issues. How do we put more money in people's pockets? How do we keep a roof over their head? How do we put food on their table? And if you get sick, go see a doctor. And without filing bankruptcy or being financially ruined. That's what we need to get back to. But we have to get more people on the boards, more on county commissions, more on the city councils, because when we finish, and I think the days of seeing somebody in a seat for 15, 20 years are over with. Those days are over with. I've only been here, this will be my 5th year if I get reelected, which hopefully I'll get reelected. It'll be my 5th year. And I don't see myself, staying here 10 years. But my job is to make sure that someone is behind me that has some of my values, but can take the ball, and to use the football analogy since the McKenzie brothers are here, to push the ball down the field. My job, I can get it to us to the 30, but I need somebody else to get us to the 10, and somebody else going to have to come along and push us into the end zone. So we have to work together. And what Sam said resonates so much is because we do fall into that category where I don't like him because he has on a white hat. He know I don't like white hats, right? But he gonna wear one because he doing that to spite me. He might not even be thinking about me. He's just like, this go with my shoes. But we hold that against them, and we will not work with him against that. And we got to get over that. And I will work with anybody who wants to work with me. I will show anybody the way, because I know we lease our office. We don't own them. We lease them. And that lease can be taken anytime, right? So whatever we can do, whatever I can do personally, I will definitely reach out and help out in any time, and I'm easy to find. My number is probably the worst kept secret, and it's definitely in Nashville, but you can call me anytime. And I think that we need people like you, and not just younger people, but older people in all ages, because in order for us to move the needle to get someone elected in Tennessee, for once you started out with 80% percentage demographic. What gives me hope here in Tennessee, why I wanted to be the chairman, so that I can move this particular agenda forward, was because we're 46th in voter turnout, 46th in the nation. It may sound crazy, but that gives me hope. Because if we can move it to 43 or 42, those are hundreds of thousands of votes. that we can get people elected statewide. And that's where the power is, and then we can move downward and we can move upward, but we have to work both ways. So I want to engage, that's what I work so much to try to engage the grassroots organizations, because the grassroots and the treetop organizations and everybody in between, we have to work together in order. We can't go and stand in front of Food Line and say, hey, are you registered to vote? It doesn't work anymore. We got to go out into the neighborhoods, knock on doors. Are you registered to vote? Yes, no. Guess what? It's going to take you 2 seconds to do it right here. And get here and do it. But we have to organize to do it. And my job as chairman is to raise money so that we can pay people to do this. Because I know people want to do it out of the goodness of their heart, but at the end of the day, people need to get paid. They need a job. We want to help them out. So let's work together to make sure that this happens. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Martin?
I'm gonna take a bite of this apple as well. In the military, they got 4 different branches, right? And none of them do the same thing. You got the Air Force, you got the Navy, the Army, the Marines. They all do different things. Because like even up here, all of us operate so differently, you'll be surprised. We all do something, our attack and how we get things done is completely different. But, so our chairman, he's my seatmate. And we're polar opposites on how we operate. But we're lockstep in where we're going. So it will behoove all of us to have an understanding, have a roadmap to where we're going. Because everybody has a different route to how to get there. But if we can all at least get to the point where we all know where we're going, these are the 5 things. These are the 5 things we want to get done this year. Because other groups, that's how they're doing it. They're saying, hey, we want to do these 5 things. Come hell or high water, that's how we want to do it. Well, we have to do the same thing, because many times we're so all over the place on, okay, where we going? Because we got a fast car. We can get there, and we can get there good. But we have to have conversations like we're having right now, so that we can present this roadmap to people who don't think none of this even affects them. Because that's why our voter turnout is so low. A lot of people, they think we're the federal government, and they think we're in D.C. Not thinking how the gun laws in your particular state affects you way more than what they're doing federally, or how the ordinance done by the city council, it affects you way more than the immigration laws do in the federal government. So again, thank you for your input, and you have 5 guys up here that's willing to help out, because it's important. It's important for all of us to come in with an exit strategy, because we don't know how long we're going to be here. I've been here 4 years now, and even though I know a little bit more than I did my first day, at least I know where the restroom is now. But it's important for even me to start looking at people who, if I ever have to sit down, who can stand up in my place. So thank you for being a person that with strong legs willing to stand. Thank you.
And let me just close it with this real quickly. 2 things. I feel old up here. I've been up here for 12 years. I actually served with Joanne Favors and with Tommy Brown. So yeah, and I learned from them actually. After getting chewed out a couple times by both of them, so I got them big mama chewings from both of them. So, but let me tell you this, and I love people like you, because I come from the ground too. Come from the ground serving, and my guy Joe Hunter, he's a testament to that, because we served on the ground together, right, in them trenches. That's what you're doing. I get it. So my advice to you is, you said you keep asking and asking. That's what I did too. I ask and ask and ask, and then they would tell me, kiss the ring, and I'd be like, go do something with yourself, right? And so my response to you is, stop asking. Don't ask another person. Do the work. Listen. You create your own space. That's what I did. There was a whole community out there in the north part of the city that was void of leadership. And we just stepped out there. And let me tell you what we did. We raised our hand and said, hey, I'm it. I'm the leader. There was no leader. We claimed it, right, on the ground. I wasn't looking for no elected seat. I wanted that ground. And I come out of the music business too. This is what they used to tell us in the music business. Same thing, same concept. I would say, hey, give me a record deal, or elect me. Give me a record deal, elect me. Same-ish, right? And then what they would say is, well, what are the streets saying out there in Memphis about your music? So I'm asking you, what are the streets saying about you? Sow the streets up. You sow the streets up, you are immovable, and you won't have to have money for an election. The streets will elect you. Sow the streets up. That's my advice to you, sister. Now go do it.
Thank you again. Thank you again. And gentlemen, thank you for those comments. Really, those are some very good comments. One of the things we must realize and must do in our community, we have to stop having 40 people run for one office. We got to stop that. No, our leaders have to come together, and we have to decide who's the best person for that job. And then we have to, yes sir, yes ma'am, but we got to stop running 40 people for one office. Yeah. Sister Jones? I didn't mean to.
Are you licensed? Good evening again. I am Reverend Ann Jones Pierre, the current president of the Chattanooga-Hamilton County branch of the NAACP. I didn't tell you I was a pastor. I wanted to see what you were going to do. I might need to have to pray for you. Okay. I wrote down what I wanted to ask of you tonight. But first, I would like to give accolades to my Representative Hakeem. I appreciate him. He's doing a very good job. One example of what he did just from a telephone call, a young lady called our office. She was in Georgia. She was probably in a situation she should not have been in. They took her children from her in Georgia, sent her back to Chattanooga and said the children belong to Georgia. I called Representative Hakeem, sent him all the information. The Tennessee exercised home rules and brought the kids back to Chattanooga. That's what he did. And I appreciate him for that, and anything else we ask him that's reasonable, he does it. He's my legislator and I'm his president. Okay, now, a little more business. The first one is, get my notes right. The children in Tennessee, since I mentioned the children. In Nashville, the judge really got on the backs of the state for having children in the offices. They're doing that all over the state of Tennessee. I called my president, Sweet Love, who's the national president, and we got in touch with the legal office and sent a letter to the lady that's over child services. We have not heard anything. We still have children sleeping at Eastgate in the office building in an old strip mall. That is unacceptable. And I will continue to fight that, and I ask that you all look into it. They don't have a place to take a bath. They finally, after we complained, brought in air mattresses, and they were taking them off to a place to have a bath. And one little girl just refused. She said she was not going to school without a bath. So we have a lot of issues as far as children are concerned, but they continue to take black children out of the homes, not working with the parents to help stabilize the situation. They just take the children, but they have nowhere to put them, and they put them in compromising situations, so they have mental issues. So what do when they get a little older? They get a gun, go out and shoot somebody, because that's all they know. So because of the way they have been treated and the way they're being treated by the state of Tennessee, who is in control of the children. Thank you. I know you're taking notes. Thank you very much for that. Also, we recently had the shooting in Chattanooga. And as the president of NACP, I've notified the mayor that we will be to him with a plan on what we think needs to be done in the city, and I've already asked about 6 people who have agreed, and we're going to attack it from the way a corporation runs. Everybody has something to do in a corporation, just like you mentioned someone about the service. That's how we're going to attack this, and black people need to attack it. Now, I will say, I used to be a little feisty, but I'm old now. I'm old now, so you know I don't do it. But what I do have to say for the male ministers and anybody else, we came to them and had a meeting about the ARP money. And Marie Mott was one who was on the Southeastern Economic Roundtable, and she told me about it. And so I went on. So we found out everything dating back to when the act was started about ARP, excuse me. And so I asked the ministers to come and other community people and the elected officials, okay? Only 3 elected officials showed up. One was my representative, Carissa Mosley and Jeter. They're the only ones that showed up. One came and he came late. And he got upset with me, but that's okay. He's in the building today, that's fine. But he did. He should not have. Now, everybody's complaining that the black people are not getting the money. Okay? The city has 36 million, and the mayor says he's going to spend 30 million in the black community. The county has 71 million, and they're not spending anything. And the problem is that some of the ministers went out and said that they were not going to support because a woman was trying to lead it. A woman brought them into this world, and it might be one standing over when they go out. That's all I got to say about that. Now, but we're going to do this thing with the other thing I have to say is, in the Chattanooga Times, there was an article that gave education statistics, and it says that at the state level in education, that black people and Hispanics are being put in the same group. That is unacceptable. The article is college going rate for high school grades falling. That was the title of the article, and it is stated in there. And I would like to ask you, if possible, if you could put in something that requires the state of Tennessee to use race and ethnic groups as defined by the OMB guidelines that the health department uses and all federal governments. Because what happens if you put the statistics together, numbers do not lie, okay? But people do. So you can put the numbers together any way to do what you want. Hispanics are not black. Hispanics, according to the OMB, are white. Okay? You don't believe me? Go to the OMB site. Go to the census site. Hispanic is an ethnic group, not a race. Okay? So we should not be with them because we are a race. And it's a definition. But if they do that, then other things are going to go to the Hispanic community and will be taken away from the black community. I've been here a long time, and I know the game. The last thing is our black men who are being put in jail because of child support. That needs to stop. How can you work if you take the person off the job, they lose the job, because you're putting them in jail? Okay? So I would like to ask if you all would please look at that, and just like they're asking to give leniency for college debt, you need to do the same thing for child support. Because some people are 60 years old and still trying to pay child support. Some of them are homeless. They're out there on the street. They can't play. They gave up. They won't do anything. So if you all would please look at those 3 things, we in Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, would appreciate it. And I enjoyed meeting all of you. And thank you so much for taking your time to come to speak with us this evening.
Thank you.
Could I address a couple of things before we sit down?
No, you can sit down.
No, I just want to address. You can sit down.
I'm not that old.
Never mind.
I'm sorry.
You gave us a lot to unpack, but I'm going to kind of start in reverse. The one thing that you said about the child support, I had Tennessee's the only state in the union that will deny somebody or revoke. They can't vote because they are a felon and owe child support. We're the only state in the union that does that.
Right.
And that's not fair.
No.
And I've been working on that for 2 years. I've introduced a bill probably every year since I've been there, and that's been one of the sticklers. And I think that is something that's a civil matter. It has nothing to do with a criminal matter, and that's my issue with that. So I'm going to continue to work on that. And that's one of the things that, as we are legislators up here, we need help. And the help is that what you can do is help lobby for it. I know when people hear the word lobbyist, they think of paid lobbyists, that are people that come up there and giving people money and doing this. But come up there, call. We already know that Representative Hakeem is on your side, but we need you to call some of the other people. Come to their offices and see, and they need to see you. They need to show up in their office, and you need to talk to them because we can only do so much, but they need to see this as impacting real people. So we want to continue to work on that because I think that's just truly unfair. And actually, I don't know, well, you probably did know this, but in Tennessee, if you're in jail and you are in prison, let's say prison and jail, 2 different things, but if you're in prison, child support still accrues while you're in prison.
And interest when they put interest on it.
So that's one of the things that we're trying to fix too. You know, it's like one of those things that, you know, we try to take a little bite and try to fix it a little bit this year, come back and fix it a little bit next year. But Representative Love, who's not here, he's traveling right now, but he would be here. But that's one of the bills that he's championed is to stop, when you're in prison, to stop child support from accruing and interest from accruing. That's one thing that we're trying to start on that.
May I ask you a question? You mentioned about our lobbying. I know I see some of the bills, but I don't see all of them. Is there any way that you could send some of us, if we sent you an email? Now, like Representative Cooper, I know her, so I saw her bill the whole time when it was going through. But most of them we don't see. But is there some way, if maybe we contacted one of you or an office and gave our email, then we would know what we could go and lobby with and not be, you know, all over the playing field?
And what we'll do is we'll strategize with Representative Hakeem to make sure that he's the single contact person for here. So, and now the one next thing, then I'll stop. Then I'll let somebody else pick up some of the many things that you talked about. Some of the bills that you talked about, especially when you talk about the DCS, that's one of the issues that I tackled when I was in there. I called the DCS to my office and talked about this to try to change this. But when you said that there were some things that you want to implement and talk to the mayor, I think that there's a way, because I know Marilyn Brown in Nashville, that's our NAACP chair in there.
Right, yeah.
What we should do, this is just a suggestion, that I think that would be more helpful and more impactful. If we could, especially in the big 4 cities, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville, and Shelby, and Memphis, if we could coordinate those efforts to when you come up with a bill that they're all introduced at the same time on a local level, and then we can duplicate that on a state level, and we do it in a coordinated effort, I think that will have more impact as opposed to you just doing it here in Chattanooga, because on the other side, they have coordinated campaigns and they do stuff. If you notice, whatever happens in Texas happens in Florida, happens in Tennessee. So let's make sure that we have our own coalition here, and let's work together, because you have a very good infrastructure with the NAACP to get some things going there. And so let's work on a local level and with us to make sure that when we introduce those bills, that it's just not in Chattanooga, so people think that, oh, that's only a Hamilton County issue. We got to make sure we hit it all at one particular time, and then we can reinforce that on the state level. I think it'll be a little bit more impactful, and I'm willing to do whatever it is that we can do to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you again. Any more comments?
Yeah, I'll comment strictly on your first piece that you brought up, and that's our children who are either they're in a I don't want to call them wards of the state because that's a category, but just who need our help. So what I did my first year, I'm just finishing my second year in office, had a relative caregiver bill, because we know sometimes it's not mama's in trouble or daddy's in jail. It's the lady with the silver hair, it's grandmother, it's grandfather that's raising their children and grandchildren. The way the state works now is really to get any aid, you have to force the parents to give up rights. And so that gets dicey, right? So a lot of times our grandparents are just raising the kids, but you don't get any state funds in that. And that's why a lot of them end up going. Because the parent still has custody of them. There's an issue at school. It just it spirals. So what I wanted to do is, and this was last year, is have a relative caregiver program. Say if you're your grandmother, your grandfather, you can get a percentage of what a foster parent gets, because their feet are growing every day, their hair is growing, they're getting bigger. They need help. The parents need help. So. And this talks about how things work in Nashville. I was shouted down the first year, bill didn't go anywhere. The chair of that committee the next year passed a relative caregiver bill. I don't care. As long as we're doing it. So it's starting in July, that's going to happen. It's limited. It's not as expansive as I would have liked. But what I'm saying is our ideas sometimes, we may not be the one to see it cross the finish line, but bringing those thoughts, bringing those ideas to the General Assembly works. So I encourage you to, like you said, continue to work with us so that we can introduce this legislation. And it may not be us to get it across, but if it's a good idea, someone on the other side of the aisle will hopefully take it and help. Or I say allow us, because as Representative Parkinson said, it's going to take 24 of them to agree with us for us to do anything. So, but thank you for your passion, and these things they weigh on us daily, and we work hard, and we'll continue to work and fight with some modicum of success. But just know that a lot of the things just don't move because color of our skin, or our part of political affiliation. So that's just the way it goes sometimes.
I have a question. The relative bill, which is good, glad it was passed, but do you ever realize that DCS is not doing their job?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you realize that they have incompetent people, and most of the people who were good have retired or will retire within the next 2 years? And that their way of solving the problem is to take black kids out of the home and not work with the parents. I mean, is there any way you can do a survey? I don't want to take too much time. I could talk to you on the phone or whatever.
Right.
But is there any way you all could force them to take a survey? Because you remember the Brian A. lawsuit? And the state lied its way out of that, because I'll just say it. One of my sorors died, and we were talking, and she's dead now, so nothing the state can do to her. We were talking, and they were actually not putting in correct information. So they got out of the Brian A. lawsuit. I mean, why do we have to continue to sue ourselves?
Right.
To make people working for us, that we pay their salaries through our taxes to do the right thing? They are not doing the right thing, and it's most often black kids. Now, there are some white kids who get in, and parents are drug, whatever, but they're just snatching these kids out of the homes. And
So-
some of them they're putting with caregivers that are not proper caregivers.
So I'll touch on that, and
Okay,
I'll let
Sam, I'm gonna let you touch on that, then we're gonna move on to the
Okay,
next
all right.
question, because we're
And-
getting close to that time.
Right, and mine is just a touch. You know, as I talked about my father and my mother and father moving to Knoxville, it was to work for the welfare department, which is now the Department of Human Service. Department of Human Services, now DCS. It really is an issue, and it comes down to, you know, integrity of the workers and integrity in terms of dealing with their cases. Now, we can do something with their caseload, and as Reverend Parkins has said, and with the morale. We have to hire better, we have to pay better, and then we got to expect more. So that's a quick answer.
And just like he asked me the question, why did my 2 kids go to TSU when most of the kids their age going to other kids? They my kids. They don't put their feet under my table, eat my food, and I give them money out my pocketbook, and they do what they want to do. We need to get back to that with love.
All right, thank you. Once again, we're going to take a couple more questions, but before we do that, I need to do this. Elected official, do we have any elected officials in the House? Because some was leaving, and I want to make sure that we recognize them. Stand up, please, please. Interim and elected, okay, great, okay, thank you. Clergy, all my clergy, having the clergy in the House, all right. And the candidates in the House, all my candidates that's running for office. Stand up, let people see you. Thank you again, Ms. Mark, okay, she's back there. Thank you again, and thank you all for being here. Certainly we appreciate the work that you're doing. And we appreciate you being here tonight. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Marquez Thompson, and I'm a rising senior at Brainerd High School. I have 2 important questions to ask. Recently, one of the interim city council people here stated that the public library here should be completely defunded. And my question is, what do we do about incompetent, failed black leadership? Because now we know that the state has banned critical race theory in our schools, and we also know about the prison pipeline. But my question is, again, what do we do about black, failed leadership? Because 78% of federal judges are white, 71.5% of sworn officers are white, 95% of elected prosecutors are white. And now we have mass incarceration, and the state has made more laws that put more people that look like me in jail. So my question is, what do we do about incompetent black officials? Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Anybody? Come back.
Don't go, young
Hey,
brother.
don't drop the
You
mic
asked the
on.
question now. Good chance.
Right. So first of all, young brother, thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, and I love you too. I just want you to know I love you too. Yeah. So you know, I think here's what I think is important is make sure that it's incompetent black leadership. Make sure that it's incompetence versus math, right? Because you can have very competent black leadership, and let me be clear. I don't know who you're talking about, and they may be failed black leadership, so let's be clear. I don't know who you're talking about, and I don't want to know, be honest with you. But make sure that it is incompetence versus math, because you can have a very competent black leader or black elected official in an environment where the math doesn't add up to be able to be as effective as they want to be. Now watch what happens, because I need you to understand this. And the little sister back there too. This is what happens. Understand the chessboard, right, of politics. So as a black elected official, I'll use me as an example. That way I know who I'm talking about. I'll use me as an example. I'm a fighter for our people, right? And I plowed the ground and I created my own space, and I got elected. The people, it was like a draft. They said, you know, because I was doing work for the people on the ground, right? But watch this. They elected me, but they're the last ones to help fund my campaigns when I go for re-election. It's like pulling chicken teeth. I ain't never seen a chicken's teeth, right? And you ever tried to pull a chicken's tooth? Right, for all the country folks out here, right? You know, so it's tough, right, to get the people that you fight for to support you when it's time for you to be elected. And then this is what happens. So I need you to get this. So what happens then is the white lobbyists come and they fund your campaign, right? So that you can be reelected, so that you can fight for the people that ain't helping you get reelected, right? Our own people, right? And I love our people. I love our people. We are peculiar though, right? And so what we need is our people to get behind our people so that our people don't have to deal with fighting against becoming watered down because our people are not supporting our people in elections. And the other people are. You follow me? You see what I'm saying? And so that's why y'all see, for everybody in here, that's why you always hear this. Oh, he went up there or she went up there and now she don't even do anything for us. Well, when's the last time you contributed to her campaign or his campaign? I mean, even in a $20 check or $25, it's a bunch of $20 checks in here right now that could help somebody get elected, right? But we literally have to scratch and beg our own people. We have to scratch and beg our own people to show up. That's why looking at y'all, I'm sitting up here smiling from ear to ear looking at y'all because y'all showed up. And y'all, man, I'm serious. Y'all have no idea how much that means to us up here. You know, but let something go. Okay, last thing, let me just wrap this up. I told y'all I'm the uncut one, right? So let's talk about cultural differences. Cultural differences. When something, if it was 9 white kids that got shot in that school, man, these white folks would be unelecting their folks in a heartbeat, right? They would be mad. They'd be, not on my life would I vote for you, right? To their own people. But with us, cultural differences, 9 black people get killed in the church, we get mad, we march, we burn, they got insurance, you know, we get on Facebook and we debate it and we talk about it, and then when the election comes around, we back. When the last time you heard somebody say Trayvon Martin? Come on, man. That's the cultural differences. But you let it happen to one of them. They will not forget. They will not get on Facebook and go back and forth and have discussions and this, that, and other and all that BS, you know. And then I'm gonna tell you the last thing, and I'm nothing against marching, y'all, but they will let you march until you fall dead in the street, until you turn blue in the face, because they've studied you more than you have. You've been under a petri dish for a long time, and they will tell you, they'll let them march, they'll get over it, they'll forget about it. You know, and then, you know, we'll build Walgreens back. We got every cookie in there insured. We're going to get paid for them burning it down. And then they're going to come back and the same police shooting is going to happen again because y'all done forgot. That's the truth of the matter. Now, so when you say incompetence, and to you, young brother, because you got a future, I say just gauge I like your strength because I don't want to water you down, but think about it before you label them. Make sure you have every single fact about them, because they actually might be incompetent, but make sure you have every single fact about their actions or inactions, you know, studied, so that you can, if they say I'm not incompetent, then you can qualify it with what you've seen and what they've done. And I appreciate you. I love you. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I love you, man.
One last thing.
Yes, sir.
I don't just label people, I study people.
Yes, sir. Good,
and
good.
I've studied this individual and I listened to them talk.
Right.
And when they talk, they characterize their neighborhood and not their district. And in addition, this person, why would you donate to somebody's campaign who's not helping your community but helping somebody else's? You're proposing ideas that don't benefit me but somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I ain't mad at you. Study.
But what I'm talking about, I'm talking about a politician, not a servant.
Yes, sir. Ooh.
And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Come on. Hey.
let me touch on
That's
it
my
real
son
quick.
right there.
Yeah. Well, let me give some encouragement. Actually, I guess I'm the newbie of the bunch. Before I got elected, I used to hear this rumor that black politicians don't work together, or that black politicians don't have the heart of the people in mind, or that black politicians are not doing anything. But I got elected, and on my first day, I found out something different. I found out I can only speak for the state. Okay, I can only talk about the Fighting 17 that we have in Nashville. I found out that black politicians do work together because we have to for mere survival. Because when we get elected and when we go in those halls in Nashville, every gun is pointed on us, every knife is meant for us, every trap is meant for us. So even though we may not agree on everything, we still have to work together. And I don't know, again, I'm with the chairman, I don't know who you're talking about, but the ones that I've noticed, like the men sitting up here right now and the women who work with us who are not here, man, I've seen people who have a heart for it. Because, I used to wonder why someone would spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get a job that paid $22,000 a year. I never could understand. But I found out that these people, they do it because they care, for the most part. Now you do have those outliers that are not with us, who are not of us, who are not with themselves. But we cannot let those 5% ruin our perception that we have for the 95% that are doing it right. So when you get elected, 'cause I want you to run for office, I'm gonna support your campaign, all right? So when you run for office and when you see all the tricks, I just want you to keep your head up, stay encouraged, and remember the people that sent you there, because we fight a good fight and we fight for the right cause. So, man, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I aspire to actually be a federal judge.
All right.
That's a politician.
Okay, we got two more, and we'll
And I'm
finish
not
it
going to
up.
be before you long. I'm Dr. Belinda Moore, and I feel like I know you guys almost. I've seen you several times speaking on television from Nashville. It was great to see you speaking at all, and because I've been kind of under the radar for about 40 years. I've worked in Knox County, Summit Hill Drive, TVA, Clarence Williams, Jerry Lewis, Jack Hampton.
Question. What's the question?
My question regarding what you're trying to accomplish regarding the children, and I have had an opportunity to work in Atlanta 8 years, worked in every court there, and I had a contract with the Fulton County Board of Education. And I got a chance to work with their children in delinquency. And this is what they have. I don't know how often or how it is that we don't have this alternative school to target those kinds of kids that would shoot up a school. Because I work with the Board of Education, and while we don't have that in Tennessee, I don't know why we don't have that in Tennessee, where we target and mentor or pull out or extract those from disrupting the school system as a whole, and have tribunal hearings for those children that are needing to another environment. So I work with the Board of Education in Fulton County, Georgia, for that, and I work that, and I also work with the DCS, so I know what children are capable of. I've been in jury trials, many jury trials, and I work, like I said, with TVA, so I've had that under the radar kind of advantage, because I was the first African American court reporting agency in Chattanooga. And so I've been doing this about 40 years, and I understand, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to say I understand we're about to make history Jerry Maynard had his reception, and of course I donated, and I was supposed to be there last night, but for the rain. But you guys are doing a great job. Keep going. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Commissioner, State Representative Akeem, for allowing them to come back again. And, you know, I don't know about the alternative schools. Why don't we have one? That's my question.
Yeah, so, what we try to do at the state level is fund or pass laws to allow things. And so like in Knox County, we have alternative schools.
Good.
So, and so that's probably something I don't know if Hamilton have them, but they have those schools. And what we've also tried to do, and I won't give the governor too much credit, but he's into CTE, vocational training. That's needed as well. We pulled all of our vocational programs out of every school, and now they're trying to put them back in, but they're also trying to create, and I know this, somebody talking about creating a new Kirkman, right? But to also try to, because not every kid's going to go to school. Not every kid is designed for that. Is created for that. So trying to give different alternatives. So, but from a state level, what we try to do is allow the counties. We're going to give you the funds, but we want you to do, because Knox County is totally different than Shelby County, which is totally different than Hamilton County. So what we try to do is empower those individual counties who know their people the best. Governance is best done at the closest you can get to the constituents. So we pass way too many laws in Nashville.
Okay, so thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Come on, Joe. We get one more in here, and then we're going to be out of here.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank y'all for your sacrifice, because there is a sacrifice for what you do, and we're obviously the reason you do it, so I appreciate that, okay? I'm here on behalf of children that I mentored, I've saved, children that I've buried, children that I'm taking guns out of their hands, taken out of dope houses, putting back in school, and I've done this now for 25 years throughout the state of Tennessee. We have problems. I don't want to talk about the problems, I want to talk about some solutions. And the solutions would be putting people resources in place. They like to put a lot of money at places, and there's no people. I've written programs for cities 60 pages wide and long with every possible scenario, but it wasn't funded. So, you do a lot of brainstorming, putting together things, but it's not funded. And I don't believe in passing the buck. All of us, these are our children. The state, the county, the city, the schools, everyone should be dealing with this issue. You know me, I'm street, okay? I'm real street. He know me from being a gangster. That's what he know me from. And being a businessman and other things. Well, if we don't put people, resources next to the kids, you're not going to stop gun violence. I've been doing this a long time, got 5 AK-47 bullets in my body, so I'm also a victim. The only way that I know to stop a little boy from shooting somebody with a gun is to know the little boy. Because if you don't know him, you're probably going to be the victim. What I do, I get to know them before the shooting starts, so that Uncle Joe can walk up and say, hey, and they say, oh, that's Uncle Joe, put the gun down. Uncle Joe also go with him as he goes through his trial and in jail. We're in the process of putting together a family. Father was in jail, mother was in jail. I've been with the children for 5 years. I didn't know the parents. But thank God we got a good juvenile court judge. We got some people on the ground, and we're doing intervention. But we need more, because I've been doing this now for 4.5 years by myself, Touche. They gave me that gentleman, Thomas, when I got here, and they took him away from me for 9 months. And for 4.5 years, I've been on the street with these gang members. I'm not from here. God has covered me. I am an OG, and they recognize that. But that's not what kept me alive. That's not what kept me going, even though I didn't have the resources from the city who promised them to me. So we have a new mayor now, and I'm hoping and praying that things will change. But if not, I ain't got but 2 more years. But I need y'all, when you're in Nashville and they're talking about making laws to lock kids up and do all of these things, I want to hear the word intervention and prevention. With every bill in California that they do suppression with, they're required to have intervention and prevention, because you can not only do suppression, you must do intervention and prevention. Most of the people on the streets have already been to jail. So obviously it didn't work. The basketball courts haven't worked. How many people went to the NBA from this city in the last what? But that's where our boys' hopes are? And nobody will come and spend time with them on manhood? I don't do sports, even though I'm in 4 centers throughout the week. I just left one, East Chat. I do life. I help them not get bullets in their body like I did. I help them not smoke weed like I did. I help them not get kicked out of school like I did. The only thing that saved me was God and my father. They don't have God or a father, and they're dying. And I'm tired of it. And so solutions is what we need. You need to bring me and Miss Mott and my little guy. I've recruited Miss Mott. I'm finna mentor her. She's my G now. Because she is a G.
She is.
And they need to listen to what she's saying. We do need interceptors on the street. If they would have given me what I needed, Saturday night when the crowds was walking around, my interceptors would have surrounded both crowds. And probably knew them because we are in the hood with them, in school with them. When I see them downtown, they ain't pulling no trap because Uncle Joe right there. Uncle Joe's guys right there. And we come in with love. So, last thing. The money that's put for police, suppression, prisons, and all of that, equal it for intervention and prevention, and I'll show you a difference. Yes, put that money there and let's see. They get 9 million, give us 9 million. And I'll hire some people and train them and put them on the street and we'll stop this. But talking about gun control while kids are dead and they stole the guns out of a car. So gun control has nothing to do with the murders that's happening. It's irresponsible gun owners leaving their guns in their cars. I am a gun owner. Chisholm, are you Sydney's son?
Cousin.
Cousin, salute, bro, you a Chisholm. Okay? Y'all don't know what that means, but that means something. Okay?
That's some 901 stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a hunter too, and my last name is Hunter. My father taught me how to shoot guns on our property in Alabama when I was 8. And I grew into that. My father also took me to gun clubs. It was mostly white, but again, I had a father who took his sons, all 5 of us, to gun clubs. And I knew how to respect the gun, clean a gun, and never touch a gun. One time we got my daddy's gun to go, pull it on some guys that wasn't even loaded. One brother ran away, all of us got beat, and I remember it to today and have a mark to remember not to mess with that gun irresponsibly. We need intervention and prevention in our schools. Not because the principal wants it, but because the state requires it. Because a principal can say, no, because if Uncle Joe come over here, that means we got gangs. No, if your school is Brainerd, that means you got gangs. It ain't Uncle Joe. So we need people like me talking, not just because it's me, but I'm skilled. Talking to people to help save these kids. Because I ain't heard no noise about the kids that got shot other than my group that I know. I know the little girl that's struggling for her life right now. But I ain't seen nothing. Also, when you got to town, did you see a billboard to say don't shoot? Did you see anything that say love each other? Do you see any marketing campaign for crime prevention? I'll take you to other cities and you won't see it either. Memphis had it and they did it wrong, and all they was talking about, you going to jail, you going to jail. And the fella's like, we know we going to jail. Tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
So please, open the door for us to come and help y'all. You know me, okay? I'm the guy that, 2,000 boys took the bridge in Memphis. They're my sons. So help me help y'all. Invite me up to tell people what's in me.
Yeah.
The dead kids of Tennessee. Please.
Yeah. Let me add something to this too, Uncle Joe, and I think I got to close it with this. I've seen this man in North Fraser. I've seen his work where, and not just once, but on multiple occasions, where we averted wars. Seriously, because he had the credibility to speak to the kids. You know, I've been in the circles with the same kids. These are some killers, seriously. And I've watched, you know, and seen and spoke to and hung out and, you know, and saw his work. So I don't know I'm not here in Chattanooga. I don't know what's happening here in Chattanooga, but you have a gift here in the city. I hate that we lost him because he was actually in my district when I first was, it was before I was elected. And then when I was elected, he was in part of my district, you know, but I hope that the city of Chattanooga or whoever the powers are that, you know, are over, you know, initiatives like this will use him while he's here. I wish we had him back. I wish we had him back in our communities. And you know, I want to say this too. You know, the acts that are happening, you know, with our children, you know, they can be prevented. You know, we need to work on multiple fronts. ACEs, we've already passed laws to make our schools trauma informed, and we need to make sure that we have people with credibility to show these kids that somebody actually cares about them.
That's right.
Man, you know, I walk in the halls of Raleigh Egypt High School, and you know, and Raleigh Egypt High School is the real deal. It's the real deal, y'all. But I stand on them sidelines with, you know, at the football games. I stand on the sidelines on the field where it's happening at. And you know, half of the kids are members of Fast Cash.
That's right.
And they're on the football field, but they know I care about them, right? They know that I care about them. And we were able to see them actually live and graduate because of things like that. And it's the same formula that he used. In fact, I learned the formula from him. And so, you know, I hope that you know, there's a way, Uncle Joe, and I'm praying for it, that there's a way that the city of Chattanooga not only taps into you, but taps into another 100 of you, so that y'all situation don't become the situation that we're having to fight against rather in the city of Memphis. So thank you for that.
I do have to mention that when I left my kids at East Chat, I told them where I was going and that you would be here. And I said, what do you want to tell them? And 4 of them had something to say. The first one said, make it safe. Just make it safe. That's all she said, with a little pretty face. The next one said, we need more Uncle Joes, Uncle Joe. I said, all right. The next one said, we need more education, Uncle Joe. I said, okay. And the last one said, are they going to do anything, Uncle Joe? So Uncle Joe came in for my kids. Do something. Do something. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank all of you all, Representative Antonio Parkinson, Representative Vincent Dixie, Sam McKenzie, Jesse Chisholm, and Yusef Hakeem. We thank you all for coming, but most of all, we thank you all for coming out. Couldn't be possible without you all coming and asking these tough questions. So we really appreciate you all coming out tonight. One of the things I like to say, and I like to say this to Yusef Hakeem, we'd like to thank you for your work, but we certainly like to thank you for the bill that you passed, insisting that the course of instruction for students in grade 5 through 8 includes curriculum to educate students in Black history and Black culture. In the midst of CRT, we have got to be very vigilant, because if we don't, they'll write us straight out of history. And you cannot have American history without Black history. Thank you again for being here. Thank the Bessie for hosting this, and certainly we hope to see you again on the horizon. Thank you.
Tyler, man, you're